dragged out of the embassy, like with his beard. He looked like Santa Claus there. It really wasn't good. Here's this former Ecuadorian president on RT News.
To the former president of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, who Polly was just talking about. He was the one who granted Assange asylum in the first place. Now, he thinks the current Quito leadership is out for revenge against the WikiLeaks editor.
I think Moreno deserves the title of the greatest traitor of history. He could compete with Judas. The state of Ecuador, in accordance with international law and guided by its own national pride, was simply obliged to protect the person to whom it granted asylum. And instead, they simply gave him up and allowed the British police to enter our embassy. Just imagine for a moment if it was the Ecuadorian police entering the US embassy. It was a decision by Moreno, who wants revenge for having been accused of corruption, because WikiLeaks released documents proving it, not to mention other evidence like correspondence, bills, etc., all now online. So Moreno is taking revenge on Assange. I think the consequences will be even harder, because although I don't want to look ahead, the possibility that the UK will not extradite Julian Assange to the United States is very unlikely.
So that's an interesting take from the former Ecuadorian president, Correa. I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure he's probably a little bit more like left wing than the average guy, but like it's interesting to see, like, that's how he handles it there, because the fact that he's not gonna, again, as like we can all assume that UK is going to ship him right out to the United States to face trial for much more serious charges than bail jumping, and that will be very interesting to watch. It could very well mean a complete and total sea change in the way that like journalism is prosecuted, at least in this country. So is completely submissive and really literally has him, WikiLeaks does. Like I didn't know that. They got him on corruption there. Like that's very interesting. They released in documents alleging corruption from the guy who literally gave him up to America and the UK. So the Trump administration's motive here is clear. With Ecuador withdrawing its asylum protection and subserviently allowing the UK to enter its own embassy to arrest Assange, like literally dragging him out, kicking and screaming, literally. Assange faced no charges other than a minor bail jumping charge in the UK. Sweden closed the sexual assault investigation because they concluded Assange was innocent, but not because they concluded Assange was innocent, but they spent years unsuccessfully trying to extradite him. But indicting Assange and demanding his extradition, it ensures that Assange, once he serves time in London for jail for bail jumping, will be kept in a British prison for a full year or longer it takes for the U.S. to extradite and have it come through, which Assange will certainly contest to wind its way through British courts. Yeah, this is going to be a legal battle that is not going to end anytime soon. And I'm pretty sure Assange has good lawyers, and it'll be interesting to see what happens to him and happens to WikiLeaks, which has been a pretty important institution in holding governments accountable, even when it has done some pretty stupid things. All right, finally, we are going to now we are going to move on to Chelsea Manning. Chelsea Manning, one of the most high-profile trans people in America. She was the person who Assange collaborated with to get these important documents. She had quite a story to tell. She was tortured for what she was able to tell, but it's still unbelievable, just literally how the media treats her. So what she did was she attempted to take her a little bit of background here. She attempted to take her own life for the second time since being sentenced to 35 years in the U.S. prison in Leavenworth, Kansas. The whistleblower who provided the collateral murder video, the Iraq and Afghan war logs, and hundreds of thousands of classified U.S. State Department cables to WikiLeaks was convicted of espionage. It's pretty incredible that someone who's had to go through so much is going to be now in incarceration, isolation. It's going to be incredibly rough. So, that's what happened to her. If you didn't know, So it's going to be incredibly rough. So the double standards of our society dictate that a perjurer like the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, faces no consequences for his crime. Dave Petraeus gets no jail time. Only James Cartwright may see the inside of a prison cell. So article written there by Jeremy Scahill. Yeah, and I mean, the good thing is, though, Chelsea and Assange, they both have some pretty strong supporters on their side. People who support and want to see whistleblowers thrive. It is incredible to see that. So, yeah, Chelsea Manning revealed war crimes, including murder and torture, exposed liars, and the dirty and duplicitous dealings of the U.S. and its allies, and documented a secret history of America's longest-running war, and forced a much-needed debate about the U.S. role in the world. And for that, she is being tortured by our own government. So, yeah, and she's not being respected by the media either. Given the indictment and arrest of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange today, however, we got another reminder of just how bad the so-called quote-unquote liberal media is at reporting on trans people. New York Times led with Chelsea Manning's dead name of Bradley. They've changed their, of course, the web version of the story. Ken Delanian completely misgendering her, pulling a Ben Shapiro.
Well, the answer in this document is that they're essentially saying that, and I'm reading as we go here, that Assange conspired and encouraged Manning to steal those top secret documents. Recall that Manning was a private with the Army in Iraq at the time, and he downloaded on disks, tens of thousands of highly classified documents relating to both the military and the State Department. And what these charges say is that Assange encouraged him to do that in a criminal manner.
Not great stuff, folks. Yeah, Fox News also did it as well. Also, Bradley this. This is some audio of Fox News correspondent
famous or infamous,
depending
on who you're talking to, but releasing classified information via his Wiki Leaks site on Iraq and Afghanistan war, Pentagon, State Department classified cables at the time, back in 2010, with the help of then Bradley Manning. Most recent.
Yeah, so yeah, it's very just disrespectful, and something like I mean, she's already gone through enough. Like, can we be absolutely real here? She's already gone through enough. It's not the best, and really kind of just discouraging and sucky to see. All right. We now turn to another pretty crazy story. The White House proposed releasing immigrant detainees in sanctuary cities targeting political foes. A new article by Rachel Bade and Nick Myroff in the Washington Post exclusive here. White House officials have tried to pressure U.S. immigration authorities to release detainees on the streets of sanctuary cities to retaliate against President Trump's political adversaries, according to the Department of Homeland Security officials and email messages reviewed by the Washington Post. Trump administration officials have proposed transporting detained immigrants to sanctuary cities at least twice in the past 6 months. So, these are apparently, these aren't just people coming across the border. These are not migrants. These are people who are been accused of bad stuff. And instead of actually getting them in jail, or just getting them out of the country, they're putting them the ones with the political foes are. That's the best, and hurting immigrants as a whole, really. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's district in San Francisco was among those the White House wanted to target, according to DH officials. The administration also considered releasing detainees in other Democratic strongholds. While the White House officials first broached the plan in a November 16th emails, asking officials at several agencies whether members of the caravan could be arrested at the border and then be bused to small and mid-sized sanctuary cities, places where local authorities have refused to hand over illegal immigrants for deportation. The White House told the ICE that the plan was intended to alleviate a shortage of attention space, but also serve to send a message to Democrats. The attempt was attempt at political retribution, raised the alarm with an ICE top official responding that it was rife with budgetary and liability concerns, noting that, there may be PR risks as well. After the White House was pressed again in February, ICE's legal department rejected the idea as inappropriate and rebuffed the administration. They just rebuffed this crazy idea of just putting random people, we don't even know who they are, just putting them in sanctuary cities. The point is not having open borders. I don't think any real Democrat is for just letting people into the country without knowing anything about them first. We have to just document them. I think that's the most important thing. And just putting willy-nilly into sanctuary cities just doesn't make any sense for anyone. I don't think anyone supports that unless you're Donald Trump and you want to pretty much sacrifice people who live in blue states to pretty much spite political opponents, just doing something that hurts the government, hurts immigrants as a whole, hurts you even if it gets found out. Also get back at a political ally. So yeah, or a political foe. So the White House official and spokesman for the DHS sent nearly identical statements to the Post, indicating the proposal is no longer under consideration. The suggestion was floated and rejected, which ended any further discussion. The extent of the administration's cynicism and cruelty cannot be overstated, said Nancy Pelosi spokeswoman Ashley Etienne. Using human beings, especially little children, as pawns in their warped game to perpetuate fear and demonize immigrants is despicable. And I really do I got to give credit to Nancy Pelosi where it's due. She's been making some pretty strong statements recently, so I do give her a lot of respect for that. But Trump has made, obviously, immigration a central aspect of administration. He's pretty much grown increasingly frustrated at the influx of migrants from Central America. And, of course, he's been talking about the sanctuary cities. He hates them so much, and he really hates them. Yeah, it's pretty much that simple. The White House believed it could punish Democrats by busing ICE detainees into their districts before their release, according to two DHS whistleblowers who independently reported the busing plan to Congress. One of the whistleblowers spoke with the Washington Post, and several DHS officials confirmed this account. They spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss internal deliberations. So, yeah. Senior official Stephen Miller discussed the proposal with ICE, according to DHS officials. He's probably for it. Matthew Albence, by the way, this is the guy who's like, pretty much if you have kids in cages, that's like a summer camp. Yeah, it's easy. It's nice. It's fun. This guy, who's ICE's acting deputy director, immediately questioned the proposal in November and later circulated the idea within the agency within his agency when it surfaced in February, seeking the legal review that ultimately doomed the proposal. Miller and Albence declined to comment on Thursday. So even that was apparently too much for this guy, even, which is incredible. Just absolutely crazy and increasing cynicism and just awfulness from the Donald Trump administration. All right. Now we turn to Brussels, where things are getting very, very rough. She commands trust neither at home nor abroad. Her own cabinet is a breeding ground for rivals jousting to replace her, and in Brussels, diplomats discount her acumen and treat her as a problem to be solved, not a partner to work with. Of course, we're talking about Theresa May and the Brexit negotiations, and a great introduction from the Washington Post there. It was then when Prime Minister Theresa May returned to London on Thursday, faced with a barrage of questions about her political future following another Brexit-infused humiliation. The day before, May was forced by the European Union leaders to accept a delay of up to 6 months for the Brits to extract themselves once and for all from the EU. Now, getting meager credit for sparing her economy in the pain of a no-deal departure, she returned for the end of the that was originally scheduled for the end of the week. She had she not groveled in Brussels, she resumed her pretty much daily toil now, standing in front of lawmakers in the House of Commons. She offered new twist to her strategy as one ardent Brexiteer called her trip to the EU capital an abject surrender. And by the way, these people, they're pretty much just literally they're begging, even they're really even starting to warm up to the idea of a new deal, which pretty much no one in Britain supports. It would be absolutely disastrous for the economy. But while I know the whole country is intensely frustrated with this process that has not been completed, just hours after striking their early in the morning deal with their fellow EU leaders in Brussels, saying, "I never wanted to seek this extension. I deeply regret that we've not been able to secure agreement in this House for a deal that would allow us to leave in a smooth and orderly way." And finally, I mean, she's talking to the Labour Party here, the opposition, to find kind of at least some orderly way out of this. Will leave Britain more closely enmeshed with the European Union than many Brexit advocates desire. But she's pretty much just gonna have to disappoint someone, because the reason why we're in this place at this point is that she has literally been so afraid to disappoint anybody. It's been incredibly rough for her. She's just making compromises that make everyone mad and please nobody. So it's a really it's a problem, folks. It's a problem. But yeah, she said if these talks break down, she would put a series of alternatives to vote. She urged restive lawmakers newly freed from Brexit pressure and on the cusp of an Easter holiday to put their feet up and come back ready to bargain. Ceding a 6-month delay, May really had no choice, but it does give the Prime Minister some